Hey everyone, so today we're continuing in the process of going through step by step the process that we go through in creating a point of difference and a positioning with our clients. So today is step 4, and that step is about knowing and understanding the competition, what they do, so that we can start to think about how are we going to be different to them and how ultimately we're going to be able to position our business and our brand in the minds of our customers that is different to the competition. So when we talk about positioning, and if you've listened to our podcast, you would have heard me talking about this ad nauseum, that positioning is so important because it's about understanding positioning your business and your brand in the minds of your customers that is different to the competition. We live in such an over-communicated and cluttered world, and as human beings, we can only take in so much information. So really finding that spot in the mind that is different to the competition and where there's the least amount of competition is so critical to the success of your business and to the success of the marketing, time, money, energy, and skills that you invest in your business. So let's talk about understanding the competition and the elements that you need to consider. It's like with anything, if you want to stand out, you've got to do something different and you've got to stand for something different in people's minds. So what are the elements that we consider when it comes to the competition to figure out how we can position your brand and your business in the minds of your customers that is different? So I'm going to use an example that we've got in our book, Small Business Marketing Decluttered. So the first thing that I want you to consider is the product or service offering that your competitors are offering. So if I look at the example in our book, so in this example, we talk about photography, super competitive, super cluttered environment. Now let's pretend there's 3 businesses within this photography area. So photographer 1, we've got here one that he works on family portraits photography, school photography, and sports photography. So that's the first photographer. Second photographer works on wedding photography, family photography, and kids portrait photography. And the third photographer only focuses on preschools. So what does that example tell us? It tells us that photographer 3 has a real narrow focus and has positioned its brand in the minds of its customers that it's different. It's found a specialty, it's found a focus in what it does and what it can do differently, and has narrowed in, I should say, on that focus and become an expert in that. So quite often what we'll hear from businesses is, I don't want to focus or specialize because I'm limiting the amount of income that can come in. That's true to some extent, but the problem with that is if you offer everything to everybody, is that you're then competing with everybody. So not only are you competing with everybody in your cluttered and competitive world, but what you're actually doing is you're saying to your potential audience, I can do everything. I don't really have a specialty or a focus. So then why should they then choose you over the competition? Now don't tell me great customer service and a great service, because that should be the minimum requirement for any business. So don't differentiate on how good your service is, because that's crap. It's about differentiating on, at least in terms of this first element, on what the service or product offering is. So in this case, they've focused in on preschool photography. So if you can focus in and be an authority in your field and be an expert or a leader in your field, then you have a high chance of being able to stand out. Another example on this one is Domino's Pizza. So they really focused in on being the home delivery experts. They didn't do eat in, they didn't focus on all different foods. They focused on pizza and they focused on food delivery. So that's become their focus. So everyone knows what they stand for, and so they've positioned their business and their brand in the minds of a super competitive hospitality market and food and beverage market that position themselves in a way that is different to the competition, home delivery and pizza only. In terms of this service and product offering and really finding a specialty, I talk about healthcare, the healthcare industry in a lot of our examples. Now, why do I talk about them a lot? So by accident, they are great at marketing because they have a specialty and a focus. When you're unwell, your GP generally doesn't help you. They refer you out to a specialist or an expert. And as human beings, we want to deal with that expert to help fix our problems, help care about us. So product or service offering is no different to the medical industry. So what's the second element that you need to consider in terms of the competition? So let's talk about target audience. What target audience do the competition focus in on that you can do differently? So for example, in that photography example, if you're a photographer that does weddings or schools, there's a bit of a focus there. The example that I gave that stood out was the preschool. So their target audience was preschool. So speaking to the heads of preschools, speaking to the parents and committees of preschool. So they know really clearly who their audience is. So all their communication is focused in on that audience. So again, if your competition is trying to compete for all the audience, try to really narrow in and focus in on an audience that you can focus and communicate to and solve their problems. So step 3 to think about in terms of the competition is location. So there's a great example in our book. So I'm going to refer to it. So Enterprise became the leading rental car brand in the US. So not by overtaking Hertz, we all know Hertz, not overtaking Hertz at airport terminals, but by setting up car rental facilities. This is so clever. Car rental facilities in suburban locations and focusing in on insurance replacement market. And they by far are the market leader within the US, all by having that strategic focus on location. So they were very clear about having a location focus that was different. So they knew Hertz was an airport focus location, so they did the opposite and moved away from airports, and now they're the market leader. So another example that we can use here is, if you focus on a particular region within a city or a suburb within Australia, tell people what that region is. So if you're in the Hunter region in New South Wales, or you're in the Logan region within Queensland, really focus in on what your region, your suburb, or state is, and focusing on that. People can relate to a location. It makes them feel all warm and fuzzy. They can relate to it. It's real. They can drive past it. So really focusing on a location that is different to the competition, and it's about being explicit. So your competition may talk about or may offer that same location, but they may not be explicit around that location. So location is always an option to differentiate, but you can only differentiate if you understand the competition a little bit. So the fourth point in terms of the competition is to think about how can you, and it's a little bit related to the first point, how can you position yourself as an expert in your field that is different to them? So they might be as good as you might have the same audience, you might offer in the same location, you might offer the same product, but can you position yourself as a leader by taking some action from a marketing perspective to do that? So for example, can you reach out to media to give commentary? Can you write a book? Can you do a podcast? Can you start to position yourself as a leader in your field, or as they say these days, as an authority in your field? I hate that term. Be an expert and a leader in what you do. I reference the book Good to Great by Jim Collins in our book. So I'm going to read out a paragraph from there. So he talks a lot about business focus and being an absolute world leader in your business. People want to deal with experts in your field. And I know what you're thinking, I'm a local plumber, I can't be a world leader. It's all in your mindset. And if you don't have an abundance mindset to think that you can be the world's best at what you do, then maybe you should give it up. You want to think, every day you want to think, I can be the world's best at what I'm doing. And if you don't deliver that and have that confidence in delivering that product or service to your clients, then don't be in business. People want to deal with experts and feel confident in the decisions that they're making, and you want to be able to give them certainty in the decisions that you're making and the offering that you're providing. And you can't do that if you don't have confidence in yourself and what you're offering and your team, your business and your brand. So what are some examples to help you to do that? So I've got these in our book. So seek out publications within your field and offer free contributions. Communicate it in your general language, messaging and overall communication that you are a leader or an expert, and use those words. Put it on your website. Just put it everywhere. Communicate that you are the leader. So to recap, what are the 4 areas to consider when it's the competition so that you can start to differentiate yourself? 1, their product or service offering. What can you focus in on? What can you do differently? Who's their audience? What can you do differently, and who can you focus on that's different? 3, their location focus, whether it's suburb, city, region, state or country. Communicate it, be explicit in that. And 4, are you an authority or an expert? And what are the actions that you're taking to help you to do that? So I hope you got a bit out of that competition part in terms of the 4th step that we go and consider when it comes to differentiating our clients and positioning themselves in the minds of their customers or clients that is different to the competition. So next week we'll move on to step 5, where we talk a bit more about target audience and understand the audience and how we can use audience to help us position ourselves as an expert and position ourselves differently to the competition. Thanks guys. As always, it's so important that you spread the word. So the more you share, the better it is. So subscribe, share, comment on all the usual platforms. Leave a rating and review. Obviously, a rating and review opens it up to small businesses across the country and across the globe. Remember, if you can't be a world leader, then don't bother. So really good if you could do that, guys. And next week, next podcast. Thanks, guys.
Please note that all the information provided on this podcast is general in nature and is not intended to be specific advice to your individual situation. Please be sure to engage a professional for a customized approach to your business and personal circumstances.